This is the Definitely Uncertain podcast, brought to you by Gold Rock Capital. Each week, we look at how high net worth families can improve their lives, decisions, and investments in a deeply uncertain world. We always aim to provide practical information, even if we can't offer specific investment advice. Welcome to Definitely Uncertain. My name is Darren Rockman, and I'm a partner at Gold Rock Capital, the 20-year-old multifamily office servicing high net worth families around the world. And with me today on the podcast, I'm very pleased to welcome David Schwartz. Hi, David.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. David is the Vice President of Technology Venturing and Innovation at Pepsico, a company that all of you will be familiar with, and certainly whose products we'll all be familiar with. He's also the creator of Pepsico Labs, which is an initiative where the company partners with promising technology startups around the world, and that's his baby. So, David, we wanted to invite you onto the show today to talk a little bit about the impact that technology is having on PepsiCo, on consumer goods markets, maybe a little bit on how adoption is happening, to give people a bit of broader view as to what's happening in your world. So, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's a real privilege. So maybe let's just talk about how PepsiCo is doing innovation today. Sure.
And before we started the innovation, Darren, I think it would be interesting to share some fun facts about PepsiCo. Because and it's not a sales pitch, but as you see the size and the scale of PepsiCo, technology therefore plays an increasingly important role for what we do and how we do things. So some fun facts. From seed to shelf, PepsiCo plays quite an important role throughout the value chain, especially in the United States. From proprietary seeds that go into the ground all the way to having one of the largest private fleets of trucks in the world and having 23 brands with over $1 billion of sales, with serving in over 200 countries and over 1 billion people a day consuming our products. So anything we do has to be done at the highest level of accuracy. It has to be done right.
Wow. Okay. So not a small business.
Not a small business. And therefore, technology is really important, but technology can't just be a startup where, oh, here's a good technology. Let's just throw it in the system and see what happens. We have to pressure test and make sure that it's set up for success.
So that said, how is PepsiCo integrating technology into a business as diverse as it is today?
So given our size, Darren, our business, when we see technology, we have to do it right because it impacts so many people inside our business and so many people who consume our product. Going from seed to shelf, we therefore have to find the highest quality solutions. The challenge is we have so many people who send us ideas, great ideas from their neighborhood, from the startup ecosystem, from other corporates. And instead of creating chaos in the system of throwing all these good ideas at the business, we go needs back. We go to our experts that are living day in, day out within our business and saying, what are the biggest problems you're trying to solve today, tomorrow, and far into the future? Once we have a good list of business needs, then we go out to the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, the venture capital firms, the corporates, incubators, companies like yourself who are connected to many of the influential families who have access to the deep technology. We find 200-300 startups, and then we filter them to about 30. We take these 30, show them to our lead experts, and they get really excited, both near-in solutions and far out of where the future could go. And they find, let's say 5 or 10, usually about 10 that excite them. Once we get that short list of 10 companies, then we get to pilot. Now, everything sounds simple so far, and it is. Right. Doing something inside a big company, forget it. That's where it gets challenging. And each startup's like, you're so big, it's not a problem. Just have a few people go try the technology. But anytime we do it, we have to do it properly. We have to pilot it with data safety, right? Data security, with the proper connectivity to the business, with the right sponsor who, if they like it, they could scale it to over 200 countries. And therefore, we take the 10 companies, we built a rapid pilot process where we could test them very quickly. A council reviews them. And if it excites PepsiCo and it works for the startup, we build a relationship to build and grow something together.
Wow. And from the perspective of the startup company, what's their experience like?
Only the best, of course.
Of course. Working with a big company.
Yes. It really ranges in experiences. First, the types of startups we work with differ. There are startups that already have a proven solution. They want to prove it to PepsiCo, and we do a really tight pilot. And I believe, but I think also based on the feedback I see, very positive feedback, because now we have a system that very quickly we could pilot test the technology. We could find any business unit around the world that makes sense to pilot, and we prove it out. The other types of startups that take time to develop a solution. So for instance, they have a deep tech solution in another industry, and we want to bring it into our space, whether it's LiDAR, radar, or other types of solutions. There are so many applications that could be beneficial to PepsiCo, but that takes time to do it together.
Right.
All the feedback we've gotten so far has been really positive, because now we tell the startup, we're not going to even start till we have the right partner for you and the right partner for us. And therefore, they have their experts on the technology. We have our business experts, and together the experience has been great.
Okay.
The one watch out. Oh, yeah, go.
Yeah, go on.
The one watch out is it's for a startup. A day is a week is a month is a year. So they expect a response in minutes, hours, and we do our best. But we also want to balance that with we have to do things properly because we touch so many lives, and everything always has to be done at the highest standard.
Right.
But we do it now with a tight team that goes as quickly as possible for a corporate.
Okay. So when you look at those experts and you speak to them, what are some of the problems that you as a corporation are trying to solve today?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'll give you a few examples. And it really ranges all the way from seed to shelf. When it comes to agriculture, it's about water sustainability. How do we use our resources more effectively? How do we support the farmer ecosystem? But as you continue to go up the value chain to manufacturing, there it starts again sustainability, wastewater, efficiency, tools to automate our lines to be even that much more efficient and that much more agile. Continuing on from seed to shelf, from the farm to the value chain, then it comes to the shelf. We have shoppers and consumers. The shoppers who are going up and down the aisle, purchasing the product for their family, and the consumer is the one who actually consume the product. There, it's about connectivity. How do we get the right product at the right place at the right time? So machine learning becomes increasingly important. And how do we connect with them to give them the right message at the right time? We still give messages on television. We still have many different avenues, but we want to be more and more custom. So for instance, if it's a cold day, we want to show hot Quaker cereal, not iced tea. If it's a hot day, we want to show that cool iced tea, because that's where we see people, that's what people are looking for.
Right. Okay. So can you give me some examples perhaps of some technologies which you see are going to be making a big difference to PepsiCo in the coming years?
Yes. If there's one area that I think is increasingly important, it's machine learning. How do we become smarter in every step of our process? So echoing the areas we were talking, we'll just go a step deeper. In manufacturing, we use water for many different elements of our process. Imagine now if we could take water and we could track how much water is being used. We found a startup actually named Wint here in Israel that could take water usage and really track every time the water is being used and look for anomalies. When there are exceptions to the water usage, highlight that so we could adjust how we're using water. So for instance, if there's a steady flow and suddenly there's a leak, we'll see that there's a change in the water pressure. If we have different types of batches of potatoes come in, because we have huge truckloads of batches of potatoes, it could help us understand how much water pressure to use depending on the size of the batch. This is where intelligence becomes so important. But then if we keep going down the value chain and we have over 1 billion people consuming our products a day, how do we get the right, not just messages to them, how do we communicate correctly to them? So some fascinating technologies I've seen as examples that have impacted our needs. How do we create different types of commercials to different people, advertising that really connects to them? How do we get smarter to see how accurate the advertising is based on what people want? And then how does machine learning give us a loop that we can be smarter and smarter every time we do an advertisement? Mm-hmm. That's where I think it becomes so relevant, not just to help us serve the customers, which are the retailers, but also the consumers and shoppers who experience our product every day.
Right. So you're really talking about data across the whole business, all the way from manufacturing all the way to the very end consumer.
Yes. Data, you hear the phrase quite often, data is the new oil. It's really about the information that differentiates different companies. And it's two parts. It's getting that data, but it's also analyzing the data because we are overwhelmed with data. Every company now, there's so much information from so many sources,
Right.
but I think the future is who's smarter to do it for the right thing. And for areas like sustainability, if we could help save on water, save on our logistics to be more efficient, it benefits both society, the environment, and also our connection with our shoppers and consumers.
So obviously, COVID has been a massive issue across companies globally and consumers globally. How have some of the technologies that you're talking about helped you through this period with your business?
That's a great question. So COVID, as everyone, is impacting us. And first and foremost, it's keeping the safety and protecting our employees to deliver products safely. But one of the things we're seeing is our customers in away from home, specifically restaurants, hospitality, are getting particularly hit hard from this situation. Sure. And what we're trying to do is, it's linked to the theme we said earlier, machine learning. What are those right technologies that could help two parts? One is help us understand the trends so we can help our restaurant customers and our partners become smarter, sell the right product, pair the right products to really appeal to the needs that people have today. And then how can we help identify trends of what are the different areas or pockets of areas where restaurants need particular support to grow, where they're going to see more restaurants opening. Rough estimates are a quarter of restaurants, and I don't know if it'll be higher or lower that number, but a large percentage of restaurants will close due to COVID.
Wow.
Whatever that number is, we want to be there to help our partners so they can stay in business and they can succeed coming out of this. So ultimately, shoppers, consumers could also get the right products and pair it with all the foods that they love to eat.
Right. So that sounds like sharing some of the data with the customers so that they can operate better as well.
Yes. And I'm almost suggest is all the people in your network, if you have companies that have the right data, if you have the right relationships for PepsiCo, please come to us. I'd love to see the technologies. What are those solutions to help our customers succeed? Customers being the restaurants, and help PepsiCo better support them.
Great. Okay. Now, if you look out, you're sitting at the sort of crossover between a very large corporate and some very small startups, and so the large corporate thinks in its terms, and the small startups very often are thinking years ahead. So when you meld those together, how does the future look? What do you see if you look 5 years down the track? How are things going to be different from a consumer perspective and from PepsiCo's perspective as well?
So there are two questions there, I think. One question you're asking is, what is that relationship with startups for such a big company? And then where's this future going?
Yeah.
And if I look at startups, I think they want one of three things from a big company. They either want funding, they want expertise, or they want scale. Where PepsiCo could really help is on the expertise and the scale. Being in 200 markets, having experts in so many different areas, we could bring, as a startup brings the technology expertise, we could bring the business expertise. Together, that creates the ultimate partnership. But that leads to your second question of, okay, well, how will it be used in the future? I'd say one phrase always sticks out to me. What is the action that will change in the future? So every technology that comes to us, almost every, I don't want to exaggerate, but within the filtering of all these solutions that come, I need to see an action that will change inside PepsiCo to justify adopting this new startup, right? Because that's where an ROI comes. So if I look into the future, I imagine a sales force where it will be smarter. They'll have on a tablet or whatever the device is in the future, knowing exactly where to go, what to serve, what product to have, at what price. So now we could really be serving the right people at the right time in the right location. That's where I think the world will get much smarter. I think it's instead of fixed delivery, it becomes dynamic delivery. Instead of going from a time of let's figure it out in art will be combined with science. And the more we can leverage the art and the science, I think the better we are serving customers, the better shoppers, the better consumers. So we can have all those right products at the right place, all at the right time.
Well, I didn't think we were going to get to art, but we got there eventually. And that was really, really interesting. Sometimes for these podcasts, we're doing hard-hitting investment themes, but it's sometimes just good to know the way that the sort of corporate world is working, particularly as they're looking forward. And this has been a great insight for us as to how PepsiCo is doing what it's doing. So, David, thank you very, very much for joining Definitely Uncertain. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed.
Right. And we're very, very pleased for feedback from you. And please check us out. If you want, you can subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, or you can go to our website. And until next time, thanks very much, everybody. And thanks to David again. Bye-bye.